Hey, welcome to another episode of Footnotes. Today we're talking with Suzanne Brunnemer, who is the president of Mann Tool and Supply here in West Columbia. This is a great episode because we talk about family and business and family business. We also talk about how she's managed to have a business that thrives in a world of big box stores and sort of impersonal service. She does it different, and I can't wait for you to hear more next on Footnotes. Well, Suzanne, thank you for having us here at Mann Tool and Supply. We're Suzanne Brunnemer, who's the president of Mann Tool and Supply here in West Columbia. And we're actually sitting in one of your classrooms that I think we'll talk about in a little bit. But why don't we just start sort of at the beginning? You're a multi-generational company.
We are.
How did you get to where you are now?
Just through a progression of career changes within the same company. So I started counting parts before I was, old enough to draw a paycheck. And I started drawing a paycheck when I was 15.
Wow.
I think minimum wage then was around $3.13 an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the interim, I worked summers and holidays while I was in school. I went to USC to be a band director. And I still continued to work my summers and holidays. After a couple of years, I just realized that education was not my calling, at least not at that time. And I came back into the business. I ended up finishing my first degree at Midlands Tech and coming in here full time. And that was around 1992. Desktop computers had just become a thing. I really got my start in desktop publishing, producing flyers and promotions for the store. And usually that next generation is kind of tasked with technology. So some other things that rolled up under my responsibilities, IT, implementing whatever, ERP softwares we wanted to go with. Still on the marketing side, back then we used newspaper, a little bit of radio, a little bit of TV. So all the traditional marketing tools through the 90s and all. Basically, I just did what needed to be done. I think that's kind of what happens in a small business, even if it's not a family business. But my dad and my uncle just kind of allowed me to find my way, find kind of my place here. There's nothing here I have not done. There's no role I haven't filled with the exception of fixing tools. Nobody wants me in the repair shop, so I'm pretty good at demolition, but I'm definitely not good at putting things back together. So in 2012, a series of sad events. My uncle that worked in the business passed away, and my dad decided, hey, let's get prepared for the future. Mm-hmm. So in 2012, I became the president and the majority stockholder. My dad stayed on, and I just continued to be the primary decision maker with him kind of tapering off. He never really retired, but he passed away in 2018. He was in the store the day before he died, and we worked side by side every day for 30 plus years.
What generation are you in the business?
I'm the third generation.
So what's it like, your third generation is sort of the like you said, the family business, but what is it really like to combine family and all that happens in a family with a paycheck?
Oh, wow. There's a lot to that. I think probably one of the hardest things within family business can be sort of a competition between, competing generations. But if you study it sociologically, the father-daughter dynamic is very different from a father-son dynamic. And we had my dad and I had a very collaborative, almost nurturing relationship in business. Now, I will say the pay is not wonderful. I will say that the hours are long. Anybody who's owned a business, runs a business knows that you might be sweeping, you might be accounting one day and selling the next, or all in the same day. So the wearing of many hats, I think, is a little more intense in a small family business. But the dynamic has been great for me. I still have a cousin who works in the business, and my husband works with me. So that's another dynamic that can change the kind of change the face of a family business. And I think probably the hardest thing is separating it. For me, it's all one thing. So my husband works in the business. My father worked in the business. My grandfather worked in the business. Home, family, business. For me as a woman, it's all the same thing. It's very hard for me to separate this building, this facility as my home. I consider this my home. The people who work here with me, the ones that aren't related they're still my family. I joke sometimes that it's like raising 9 kids, but they look out for me too. So I just think that there's a bond, and there are some unspoken benefits that come from working in a familial type business. And you may experience this. I know that yours is not technically an all family business, but I can tell from talking to you that you treat it like a family, that it feels like family, like home to you. And I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I think we do. But like family, everything's not perfect. And sometimes you have to work things out just like in a family, and we're solving problems for clients and helping each other, get better. Also, you've got business, you've got family, but then you've got this sort of the business of the business, this competitive field that you're in, where you guys sell power tools, amongst other things. And, you and I discussed, in the conversation to set this up, that, of course, there's lots of places where a person who needs a power tool can buy them. And I think a lot of people are familiar with sort of large home stores and kind of big box, if you will, but you guys are not that. You've also not been that for 3 generations. Talk to us about how in the world a business like this survives you're in a large metro area also. So the competitors are literally surround this store.
That's true.
How are you still standing?
Grace of God some days is is what I chalk that up to. We run this business with principle. We treat people the way we want to be treated. I think sometimes we're kind of like the Cheers of tool stores, because it's not unusual. I just came in from the showroom and people are throwing up their hands and calling one another by first name between the staff and the employees, and between the staff and the customers. So it has a kind of a folksy, relaxed feel when you come in the store. But what I think truly sets us apart is we want to educate you. We want to make sure that, it doesn't do us any good to sell you something you can't use, or sell you something that's not going to help you get your job done. And especially for the customers that are small contractors. They make their living, 1-2 people out there doing a little bit of everything. So they need to work as efficiently as possible. And I don't need them coming back and saying, this didn't do the job. I don't need them coming back and saying, I got to the job with a drill, but I didn't have a drill bit. And if we're not having those conversations and making sure that the customer is leaving with enough of our knowledge to have everything they need to do their job and to do it well, then we haven't done our job. And I think that's what sets us apart, is imparting that knowledge, is giving them a little something extra. You're familiar with the word lagniappe. I don't use it very often, but it really means a little something extra. And our little something extras, we care. We want you to be happy and satisfied. And if we have any part in how you feel when you look at your finished project and it's good, then that's it. I mean, I really think that's the best outcome for us as a distributor, is to have some impact beyond just putting a tool in your hands.
Sure. Fun fact: you're the second guest on Footnotes who's used the word lagniappe. The first time it was used was Emil D. Felice, who started Soda City Market, among other things. He used that word, and he explained it almost the same way that you did, where it is sort of that unexpected extra that is nice. That people say, oh, I certainly wasn't expecting it, but not only did I get something from it, but it makes me remember that experience and put a higher value than just the dollars and cents. I will say, not to be a skeptic, Suzanne, but a lot of companies are saying that. You're saying it, and you guys are doing some things. But talk to us a little more about who sort of your people are. Who are the customers that come into a store like this, knowing that there are other ways to acquire these tools?
Well, we serve multiple markets, from the general contractor down through hobbyists, and we call our hobbyists professional hobbyists, serious hobbyists. Yeah. You don't necessarily need the grade of equipment and even hand tools that we sell, but you might want it. It goes back to that thing of satisfaction. And you buy something cheap in your kitchen, it's no different than buying something cheap for your garage or your shop. So that professional hobbyist, professional do-it-yourselfer, small subcontractors who really need a wide array of products to get their jobs done, because they may be fabricating, installing, repairing, renovating, all of those things kind of in one job. And we want to be able to supply that person with as many things, get them as close to a solution as they can possibly get under one roof. I think that's really our bread and butter. And then we have a very strong relationship inside the institutional. We love serving the carpentry and building trades programs in our public schools and in the Department of Corrections. So you can kind of see where it runs the gamut, and you may have somebody doing the same thing in their garage as somebody else is doing out on the job site, as somebody is doing in a classroom. And we want to just prepare them all as well as we possibly can to do what they do.
So that's a good transition. And even though, we video this podcast, if you're listening just to the audio, you're not going to be able to see this, but we are sitting in a classroom.
Yes.
You've built a classroom here at your store. Talk to us about the classroom. Why did you do it? And how has that helped you guys build more of a community?
Well, that's the community aspect is certainly something that we wanted to foster. When we moved in this building in 2001, we were already hosting two local interest clubs. One of them is the Columbia Woodworkers, and the other is the Palmetto Woodturners. In our previous facility, we didn't really have a dedicated space for people to meet, or for us to bring in a demonstrator or that sort of thing. We just kind of had to make do with the space that we had inside the store. So when we got here, we knew that was one thing that we wanted to provide, was a dedicated space for the Columbia Woodworkers to be able to bring in their demonstrators and serve their membership by fostering woodworking in the community. And the Palmetto Woodturners, the same thing, in turning to be able to bring in, and these folks bring in regional, national, and even international demonstrators to really promote their craft in our community. So that's one piece of that community. But we also wanted to be able to do something kind of from the inside out. So we started bringing in instructors. It started out very simply. Now we have, for people on staff that can teach, we bring in outside instructors. And it's really just about bringing in people and getting them started. Our most popular classes to this day continue to be on the beginner level. So we're bringing in people who are maybe brand new to tools, brand new to woodworking or crafting, building, making, whatever term you want to put on that. And some of those folks get so excited, so turned on that, they end up with a lifelong hobby. Some people consider it very therapeutic. Some people treat it like a date night. Those are all things that we're very proud and excited to provide those opportunities inside the community, and to be able to, still be greeting somebody 10 years down the road that started their passion in our classroom. I mean, what more could you want than to have that ongoing long-term conversation for somebody who found something they were that interested in to still be doing it years later.
Well, and to not to put words in your mouth, but to listen to you describe why you have the classroom and what it means to Mann Tool, it does seem like you're growing your family. You talked about kind of this work family that you have, but now you've grown this family in the community. But I think one thing that I find is really interesting is, like you said, these are for beginners. I think people might go a place like this and think, well, if I'm not a pro, or, I don't have a wood shop full of tools, like why would I ever go in there? But I think it seems like a smart business decision also.
Well, it can, frankly, be a lead generator. And we do try to include the professional as well as the beginner, so that they can kind of take it to the next level. Because, once you start doing anything, and I don't care if it's fishing, I don't care if it's wood turning, whatever it may be, there's going to come a point to where this boat is not enough to meet my needs. Yeah. This particular piece of equipment is not enough to meet my needs. So people continue to kind of graduate, hone their skills, broaden their repertoire, so to speak, where they're layering multiple disciplines within the woodworking umbrella together, and we have to be able to, kind of help them along on that journey. And for the professional, I find that I hear our staff talking to people all the time who are working, who are earning a living out in the community, building and making, and we're still giving timely and relevant information to professionals because of the way our staff is educated. We're very invested in training. Our buying co-op provides all these opportunities, and our staff takes advantage of those. So yes, at the beginner level, we're able to provide that, but also on the professional level. And it is very hard to bridge that gap to help people understand that we are here for the public. We are here for the community, not just construction or, sure, that sort of thing. But, start to finish, all skill levels in between.
Well, and again, not to, I think we've kind of gotten a little crazy these days with gender and just being so obsessed with things being gender specific or not. But I have seen where you offer classes that are more women focused. In other words, it might be all women in the class. And of course, it's a woman-owned business. Is that on purpose, or has it just happened that way? Or
it's probably a combination of things. Our friend Anna, of course, she certainly pushed me to provide a kind of a more friendly space for females and for her to help promote that. It's probably both. I take so much for granted because I've always known how to read a tape measure. I've always known how to put a saw blade on a saw. These are things that I don't necessarily think about. So I take a lot of encouragement from other women in business in our community, other women in business through my industry, which is 90% male. So, you want to talk about a male-dominated industry, and I was brought up that way. So I'll joke with people, I say I was socialized as a man. So sometimes it's kind of harder for me to relate and to bring about these opportunities for women to come in and to have a place where they feel welcome, because I don't necessarily think about that way because I have always worked. I've always been one woman with 9 male coworkers, and part of that 10% in the power tool and fastener industry that's women. So it's grown out of a lot of things, and part of it's my personal growth to find ways to promote women-oriented events in the community, to promote women in trades. And there's so much attention on this right now on social media, on the media in general, in the media in general, that we know we know better than to ignore that. And there are so many women makers just in Columbia. I mean, it's just really amazing. So it only makes sense that we try to help foster that, to try to help women make that leap, to gain their confidence, to, because confidence is probably the biggest thing. Walking into this classroom, even for me to this day, is intimidating. I didn't grow up making. That's something that's kind of new for me.
Well, and I hope that's encouraging to people that are listening to this. I mean, you literally own the place, and you say it's intimidating to walk in, but you do it anyway. And I like the way you describe this educational piece, that it really is about the education. It's about showing people something they did not know how to do, and then they leave knowing how to do it. And while that might be smart business, I think the business is sort of in spite of the education. And I mean, I think from the outside that sounds like a very conscious choice, that in your ownership and your guiding of the company, that you've pressed forward in that direction.
Absolutely. Because we, from a business standpoint, it's not a separate operation with a separate name or anything like that, but we do kind of treat it that way. And we try to make it as easy as possible for people to have access, whether it be access to the equipment, whether it's ADA related access, just to make sure that as many people as possible are able to, to come in and have this experience.
What is it about, I mean, not to get overly philosophical, but what is it about making something that lights people up? What do you think that is?
Oh gosh, it's that, you start with this clunk of wood. It's ugly, could be ugly. Then you get about halfway through and it's like, something's happening here. Then you put a finish on it and it's shining and it's like, I just made that. I made that. It's the same thing if you bake a cake or you paint your bathroom, or, everybody has a first time for everything. We don't all come into this world knowing or even being comfortable trying things, but it's that end result. That is all it is. It is that satisfaction that comes with going, these two hands, this mind, and a little bit of stuff turned out something beautiful.
That's really, yeah. I was hoping you'd say something like that, That's kind of the fun of an interview, is that, not everything is script. In fact, none of this is script. And you ask questions and you're just not sure what's going to come back. But I think that, you describing how you make something, it was this, like you said, just a clunk of wood, a couple of tools, some know-how, some trial and error, and all of a sudden it's just transformed into something not only that's beautiful, but also useful. And I think the pride that comes with that, I think it helps to build confidence. My slight editorial is, I think there is just a crisis of confidence in general in our society. We're so unconfident in a lot of areas. And as much as I want to chase that rabbit, I'm not going to do that. But Suzanne, how do people, so I hope that people are listening to this and they're intrigued by this story. How do they find out about classes? How do they find out about Mann Tool? What's the best place for them to kind of walk in the door, so to speak?
Well, ideally we want them to walk in the front door.
Okay.
I mean, there is that, we try to prepare a shock and awe effect when you walk in the door from a visual standpoint, and just kind of like light, color, and power tools. It's pretty awesome. But the easiest way to find us now is online.
Okay.
We have a website. It's manntools.com. And on that page, you can see our products. You can see our class offering. You can register. And there's a lot of history on there. So in the About Us section, it kind of tells our story about who we are. But yeah, our website's probably the easiest first step. And we hope that experience makes you want to know more, because, like I say, ideally, you need to just come see it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to film here. This is a neat and just visually interesting place. And thanks for just sharing this story. I hope a lot of people listen to it and that they're inspired by it. And I hope that they'll sign up for classes and just come and check you guys out over here in West Columbia.
Well, I sure appreciate you coming in, John.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.